CBSE Board, Class 11, History, Chapter 4, Part 4, Audio by Renee Matthew. Two reasons made London replace Amsterdam. The first one was because it was the principal source of loans for international trade, and there was a center of triangular trade network which got developed in three places, which drew in England, Africa and the West Indies. So these two reasons replaced London as the most important trading network in the world. It gained global significance also. The companies which traded in America and Asia also had their offices in London. Everybody had a connection to London because that was the significance of this new place, which was prominent in trade and commerce. Now, what happened in England? The movement of goods between markets was aided by a very good network of rivers, coastline with sheltered bays. So the topography itself was very favorable for England, which had a very good network of rivers, indented coastline and sheltered bays. So till the spread of railways, till the expansion of railways, transport by waterways was cheaper and faster than by land. Only after the spread of railways, it was a bit expensive, but still people could afford it. So transport by waterways was much cheaper. As early as 1724, English rivers provided 1,160 miles of navigable water. Water was given, they provided it, except for mountain areas. Most places of the country within 15 miles of a river was accessible and they provided water. So that was the topography, that was the kind of situation that they were located in. The geography itself was favorable and blessed for England. The center of the country's financial system definitely was the Bank of England, which was founded in 1694. So by 1784, there were a lot of 100 provincial banks in England attached to it, and in the next 10 years, their numbers trebled. It started increasing. So financial centers also was there. What more do you need for an economy to flourish? The conditions were really favorable, and it was as if all the conditions were to their blessing. By the 1820s, 600 more banks in the provinces sprung up, and over 100 banks in London alone, because it was a center of trade, so many banks were there in London. So these financial requirements was there to establish and maintain very big industrial enterprises, and it was actually met by the banks. The banks actually supported these enterprises, and it was very easy for them to fund also these things. The industrialization in Britain took place from the 1780s, which continued up to 1850s. It is explained by the following factors. Very important point. Many people were poor from the villages. They were available to work in towns. Many people were in need of work, especially people from the villages were uprooted and they came to town in search of jobs. Banks were self-sufficient to provide loan to set up large industries. The banks were prosperous and they could easily give loan. And there was a very good transport system. So these three factors facilitated industrialization in Britain, especially from 1780s to 1850s. Now, the upcoming pages will describe two new factors also adding to the previous three. There was a lot of technological changes which took place, and that increased the production level from small scale to large scale industries dramatically. You could see the change within days. There was a dramatic change, and there was a new transport network which was available here, and that was created by the construction of railways. New transport network, new transport lines were arranged, and that was mainly by the construction of railways. In all these developments, if the dates are read carefully, you can notice that there is a lot of gap between a few decades, that is between the development and its widespread application, because when you develop something, it is not very easy to apply it. it will not expand quickly. So there's a lot of gap between these two things, that is between the development and the widespread application. And you cannot presume that the new innovation in technology led to be used in the industrial immediately. When you have an innovation, it's not that immediately it was applied in the industry. There was a lot of gap. They had to do a lot of tests. They had to check if everything was right, and that took time. But still we can see that these changes took place very dramatically. So that was the most important part. And now we have to look at all these inventions which took place. I think this part is going to be very interesting, with all the inventions which came up and which expedited the Industrial Revolution. 26,000 recorded in the 18th century. Okay, it was listed between this period 1782 to 1800, and this led to many changes. 26,000 inventions took place during this time. And we have to discuss these major ones. The first one is the transformation of the iron industry. Okay, then it is the spinning and weaving of cotton. Okay, there's one more major area which is coming up apart from this, and that is why it is given as 4 major areas. Then of course it is the development of steam power and coming of the railways. Transformation of iron industry, spinning and weaving of cotton, the steam power and coming of the railways, and then the expansion. Okay, that is the 4th point. Now we have to talk about the transformation of the iron industry, how it took place. So first we have to look at the resources, coal and iron. What is this process that you see on the screen? Okay, we have to see what that process really is. So take a note of that picture on the screen. England was very fortunate in many ways. I told you that it was blessed because of the resources and the water bodies it surrounded and all these things. Everything was to its convenience. So England was fortunate to have these resources, that is coal and iron ore. They made use of it. The staple materials for mechanization were plentifully available. Whatever was needed to feed the industries or the machines was plentifully available. That is coal and iron ore. They also made the slaves work in these mines. So it was very easy for them to carry out things. So the other minerals were lead, copper, tin, and that was used in the industry. So they were actually available in plenty. So till the 18th century, there was actually a scarcity of usable iron. Most of it was in crude form and we had to convert it. So there was a great scarcity of usable iron. Iron was drawn out from ore, that is, it was dug out as iron ore as pure liquid metal. It was actually converted to this form of pure liquid metal through a process called smelting, and this is the picture, smelting. So to convert it from this crude form of iron ore to smelting is it's a long process. It was a great invention. For centuries, charcoal, which was produced from burnt timber, was used for the smelting process for a long time. Over the centuries, people started using charcoal for the smelting process, and that was obtained from burnt timber. Now let's see how the invention took place. Now, what was the real problem in using the charcoal? Why did they want to change it? Because the charcoal was too fragile, it was too weak to transport across long distances. We could not transport charcoal over long distances because it is very weak. It will start maybe falling apart, it will start breaking also. And the impurities produced poor quality iron. So whatever was produced from charcoal actually produced very low quality iron. It couldn't be used for further things, okay? And there was a shortage in supply because forests had been destroyed for timber. Okay, there was a shortage in supply, and many people we saw, they did not actually consent to the Britishers to go and get all these timber from South America and all that. They just shooed off the Britishers from there. So it was not very easy for them to have it. So there was a shortage in the supply, and they could not generate it in high temperature also. And forests were cleared. It was destroyed for timber. So it was in short supply because forests had been destroyed for timber, which was not a very good idea, and it could not generate high temperature. The solution to this great problem was actually sought for years. People wanted a great solution for it, and that was developed by a family of iron masters, and that is the Darbys of Shropshire. They developed this particular process, and in the course of half a century, almost it just took half a century for 3 generations of the Darbys, the grandfather, father and the son, they all called Abraham Darby. They brought about a revolution in the metallurgical industry. Chemistry students will know better about these procedures, but still we have a small explanation of what happened in the metallurgical industry. So this was a family which created a revolution in the metallurgical process. It began with an invention in 1709 by the first Abraham Darby. All of them were called Abraham Darbys, 1, 2, 3 like that, the grandfather, father and son. So they started with the evolution. Okay, this is the first person. This was a blast furnace that would use coke. It could generate high temperatures. The earlier problem was that it could not generate high temperature, but now it was by using a blast furnace which used coke, and it could generate high temperature. And coke was derived from coal by removing sulfur and impurities. They took the coal, they removed sulfur and impurities, and then they converted it. Okay, so coke was actually derived. So it's a huge process. So from this point, from this step itself, the procedure starts. Now after that, we can see that this invention meant that furnaces no longer had to depend on charcoal. So we need not use charcoal for the remaining years. And this melted iron which emerged from these furnaces actually permitted finer and larger castings than before. So it was very easy to work with this iron because it permitted larger castings and it was of higher quality than what we got earlier from charcoal. So the quality actually improved, we can say. So this particular process was further refined by the remaining Darbys. Now when the second Darby came, that is the son came, he developed wrought iron, which was less brittle from pig iron. Okay, the first one was pig iron, and this particular second quality was less brittle. It did not break easily. Henry Court designed the puddling furnace in which molten iron could be rid of impurities. Okay, so Henry Court was the person who invented the puddling furnace. Okay, this is the one, and it was a machine where they could clean the molten iron of the impurities, and that is how it got its quality. When you have impurities, there are chances that it breaks, it becomes brittle. Not breaking exactly, it becomes brittle. So that was puddling furnace. Next invention was a rolling mill. This was also created by Henry Court, and it used steam power to roll purified iron into bars. So after this, it rolled it into bars, and that is how they used it for purposes, different purposes. Now it was very easy to use iron for different broader range of iron products came into being. It was very easy to use it, and the durability of iron made it a better material. Okay, it lasted for long than wood, because people used wood in those days and wood did not have much durability. It was very difficult to maintain wood also. The durability of iron made it better to use this wood for everyday items and for machinery. It could be actually handled roughly also, no problem regarding that. Now unlike wood, which could burn or splinter, wood could just break or burn easily, the physical and chemical properties of iron was much better. It was much controlled. Okay, it could be handled roughly, just like how I told you now. In the 1770s, John Wilkinson made the first iron chairs, pots for brewers and distilleries, and iron pipes of all sizes. So he was the first one, because after it got rolled in rolling machine, it was not very easy to actually produce these materials. But John Wilkinson successfully did it by creating all these things: breweries, distilleries, iron pipes and all that. Just now a picture came up. You know what is this? The third Darby, that is the final invention, built the first iron bridge in the world. So this is the first iron bridge in Coalbrookdale, spanning the River Severn. Okay, it was above River Severn, and this area later grew into the village called Iron Bridge. Okay, so that is how the village Iron Bridge came into being, and the first iron bridge was built by Darby, really very strong. And Wilkinson, when he made all these products, he used cast iron for the first time to make water pipes. 40 miles of it for the water supply of Paris. So this was the greatest invention where he used it. So the different forms of iron, the way to transform this iron ore into different forms was the real effort which was taken by third Darby and Wilkinson. Of course, the invention was triggered and sparked off by the first Darby, but evolution took place after that. So that is how they built and proved that it can be used to make many more things. And look at the way they have twisted, and all these complications, complex structures came later because people were really scared whether it can be turned into these kind of structures, and they successfully were able to do it.